data as well. And then one final measure that we also looked at was the proficiency of the 50th percentile or above. So then we have second grade, third, and fourth, and we're just comparing what that initial testing percentage was in the fall to the growth that we see this last administration in winter. And so we see nice growth in each of those grade levels as well. So again, that data has really been a foundation for our work this year, and we continue to monitor that. I'm going to share with you a little bit about Data Thursday. As you're aware, Country Meadows has been using the data into action book to guide our collaboration. And so using the action structure, our collaboration has been designed as a weekly opportunity for us to look at different data points, including the STAR assessment results, formative assessments, pre and post assessments for our literacy unit, and other data sources to we have a tool approach to data literacy and using data to inform our instruction. And you've been provided with a copy of our data Thursday schedule. Each week, what we have already planned is that's the Thursday and what kinds of materials we're going to be looking at. And that's part of our weekly collaboration plan. So Matt and Mary are going to talk a little bit more about that work and show more specifically what we do and how that works support our students. Good evening. The assessments for our reading units of study have been one source of data used to drive instruction. This year, Country Meadows teachers have spent a portion of Data Thursday to develop rubrics to define different levels of literacy on specific ELA standards. On the slide, you'll see an example of rubrics developed by our third grade teacher team on standard RL 3.2. This standard asks students to recount their stories and determine the message using key details from the text. The rubric allows teachers to assess students' pre-assessment work, set goals with students, determine instruction, and show growth throughout post-assessment. Since our school goal addresses the advanced learners, you will notice that the rubric also identifies criteria for exceeding the standard, so all students have targets for growth. Here are some third graders discussing how the pre- and post-assessment help them grow as readers. So far, I wanted to talk a little bit about the pre and post assessments that they use. And I thought we would talk about how to help them assess them. So we talk a little bit because people about how to assess them. Well, when you see your results, it tells after the pre-assessment, it tells you what you need to work on. And if you work on that a lot, and then like a post-assessment, you might get a lot higher. So really focuses on what you're going to work on during that unit. Yep, and then after if you still work something and something and you didn't meet your goal or something, after the post-assessment, then you keep working on that. Anyone else have something to share? Go ahead, Ellie. So you use it as a comparison. So if you're looking at the pre-assessment compared to the post-assessment, what does that show you? It shows you how many well, I thought you'll see the difference because when you take the pre-assessment, you don't know what it is yet, and then when you take the post-assessment, it's really focused. Right, it really focuses on what is most important for the unit, what you really need to target and pay attention to do well in the post-assessment. So through ongoing assessments, teachers monitor student progress to grow all of our learners. I'm going to share with you some of the concepts that we use using our STAR data and other tools to create our data action plan. And this process has been over a series of 5 meetings. The first 2 meetings were driven by data and then triangulating the data. We spent time looking at what we had for our student data and ended up searching for more artifacts within our classroom that would provide additional information about our students that we were focusing on.
Once we established our targeted population, we created I-wonder statements, and those statements they really helped us focus on identifying possible causes and connections to our classroom instruction. From there, we were then charged with creating our plan. So data meeting 3 was where we first created an exploratory question that would help us remain focused on ensuring that we were providing enough opportunities for students to master the skills identified in our first 2 meetings. And as a PLC, our first step was identifying gaps and next steps for instruction. But we needed to make sure that the identified gaps pertain to exploratory questions that we created during meeting 2. So the second step focused on identifying instructional gaps and what our next steps would be for our instruction. One of our most useful tools in doing this was actually looking at our knowledge units of studies. So we identified specific units where the targeted skill would best fit, and then made changes directly affect student learning. So in the third grade, for example, we found 4 of 8 units where we could define our instruction and focus on student learning and mastery of our targeted skill. So from here, we then focused on identifying connections between the learning gaps and instructional gaps. Essentially, we were asking ourselves what skills we want our students to master and what instructional opportunities we invest. But before we could create our student learning objective, we needed to create an evaluation tool that would provide effective information as to where the students were before the instruction, and then assess whether or not they actually did meet their goals. This is completed during the 5th and the final step of our process. After completing all of the steps, we used our data and student profiles to create a data action plan. We completed the first 4 weeks of instruction successfully and recently began another opportunity to extend learning and small group strategies, whole group instruction, or the one-to-one learning. So we will continue to follow the above steps that we talked about and move towards student mastery of our targeted skills. One thing you'll see behind you provided it makes a chart that our team did in the summer, and just kind of dissected each of the different steps, so we knew in advance what it was going to look like over the 5 years. So we wanted to share a 3rd grade data action plan with you. And you can see clearly that we addressed the learning gap. That's pretty clear there with target objective or student population. And then we were really precise with our instructional plan. So we are really excited now that our first cycle. We're really excited to get started again and going back and revisit. Basically starting back at our first meeting and taking a look at all of the different steps. So we're excited to start that in 2 weeks.
And I can talk to you a little bit about what this work looks like. Not only are the children in our SLO population setting goals, but all of the children are involved in working toward literacy goals that align with our units of study. This is an anchor chart that was used to teach first graders how leaders set goals. First, the goal is identified as what the child is working on as a reader. Next, the reader creates a brief plan telling the steps that will be taken to reach the goal. Then we come to one of the most important parts of the goal-setting process, which involves monitoring progress. This has been a lofty undertaking for first graders because each time the learners set a new goal, they gather evidence to show that they met the goal before setting a new one. So this is James and my student teacher and I all confer with the readers. The kids get very excited to sit down with one of the adults and share their evidence. If the students gather enough pieces of sufficient evidence, then they're ready to set a new goal. Finally, as students achieve their literacy goals, we celebrate by displaying their evidence on a board that I call my goal-setting wall of fame. As you can imagine, the little ones feel a great sense of pride when they achieve their goals and have their work featured on this wall with their photograph. Let's take a look at Kyle. Give us an example of the kind of evidence you were gathering.
Supporting details
The process of setting goals, developing action plans, and gathering evidence to support the attainment of goals is serving not only to keep the students motivated and engaged during our workshop, but they are also actions being taken to grow all learners. We'll watch one last video clip, and when asked how she would assess herself as a reader, I thought this little girl might reflect on her attainment of literacy goals, but here was Macy's humorous response at the end of the video clip.
So there would, just the various kinds of goals that students are setting. The reading strategies, and I know in third grade, really have dissected all of our units of study, and then we have specific goals that we want to achieve with the lessons that we also have goals that align with our grading system. So we really try to have the students match up a goal that they can apply to the current lessons, and then take another goal that they can use when they can be really kind of that connection when they're being at home or strategies, important ideas, and like Kyle, I think, was talking about how his goal is looking for pretty details to the main idea in the nonfiction, so specific reading strategies. And then they need to provide the evidence, and those have to provide pieces of evidence to
those goals would be more connected to the other standards that I haven't still yet to meet that level. So the idea or identifying maybe to describe a character and find evidence in your context. So when they complete one, there's a list of standards that they need to achieve and from there. Put into kid-friendly language so that the students are able to understand how the standards are broken down, but yet they put in kid language so that they can identify what they need to work on.
So when they're setting their own goal, they essentially have a list.
Well, I think every classroom teacher may have a different approach to that. With the little ones, what we've decided is that if we give them a menu of choices that relate to the unit that we're doing, it's much more manageable than leaving it completely open-ended. So the menu of choices should be related to the standards in that particular literacy plan. But those are great questions.
I would think third is the students have more of an understanding and more experience in being able to create some of their own individual goals, either in first or second. We provide that and provide some of the language for them, but then it's that goal with that student is clarifying it so that they understand what they're working for.
Thank you.
Sure. So specific to interventions, we are taking a look specifically at how our intervention students are growing this year as well. So we have made some minor changes, such as including our interventionists in our universal screening meetings, collaboration and communication between classroom teachers and interventionists as well. Some of the things that we were noticing, so students may be displaying skills in intervention, but then not necessarily transferring those skills to the classroom. So those are some of the things that we have tried to come around. So this year we've had 5 dismissals from intervention out of our 22 total intervention students. So that is roughly around 23% of what that is. Math intervention and universal screening meetings. Those students had not been in intervention long enough this year in order to have enough database for dismissal, so we'll be monitoring that next round. So we are keeping a close eye on students and their progress that they are making. I think more so than we had in past years, and just making sure that if it is a strategy that we're seeing that display in intervention, then it's transferring to the classroom and really back the other way. So communication is a large part of that.
I think the bridge between last year and this year is challenging because we had the TE testing last year and we have the STAR, so it's not a direct translation to see that progress. But moving forward to next year, we'll be able to follow that path a little bit more closely. So this first year out, we've had to do a lot more relying on other types of formative assessments that we perform in the classroom, not just on the STAR data.
as you said, kids feedback and convert that so we can understand that as far as the social groups and stuff, how do you see this? I mean, it's powerful stuff. I mean, that's what people struggle with doing in business is accepting feedback. I think a lot of people get it, but to accept it, what have some thoughts on that? I mean, how's that?
And I think that we start that at kindergarten level, so it's something that they're used to on a day-to-day basis. And giving each other feedback, student to student, and also from teacher to student as well. And those rubrics that we're developing for units to study are very powerful because it lets people describe starting the unit at, and they can see what's my next step. Myself as a reader, that's very concrete that I can use during the unit to help them see the growth and where they need to go next.
Yeah, I thought that was very powerful that those two kids who actually told the story basically of what they're experiencing, which is great.
Those are third grade students that we're speaking.
That's really nice. I mean, thank you to all of you for just having them present that and observe it. That's powerful, I guess. My last question is, and I'm just curious, on your, I think, exemplary learning and teaching, one of the SLOs, and I think what you said you went over and you did in gathering is what is the difference between a learning gap and an instructional gap? How do you determine that?
Yeah, great question. So the way that we have come around it, once we identify a need, so a learning gap may be that the instruction has been provided to students, but they're still not mastering what that instruction is connected to, whether it be a skill or strategy. So that would be a learning gap, where an instructional gap may be we're seeing a trend either across the grade level of classroom, maybe even district-wide across all elementary schools, but it could be connected to either that instruction is not being delivered, or it may be delivered, but it's something that's not a large focus of the unit, so we need to then bring more attention to that and create some instructional plans to incorporate that into the instruction where it may be absent from it. So really the difference would be we provided the instruction and students are not hitting that target, or the instruction isn't in our curriculum or resources for some reason, so we need to come around to that. So both of them essentially end up with the result of a plan being created to target what that area is, but it would be our learning to see exactly what that root cause may be if students are hitting what the benchmark is.
Thank you very much. I like very much a lot I see. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, actually, this next item is Christy and Dawn. They'll provide an update on some changes to guidelines that the Department of Public Instruction has given districts in the state of Wisconsin regarding instructional minute requirements and how that's more of a flexible sort of approach from CPI's perspective. So, Dawn and Christy.
So I'll start, but these things really apply K through all the way up through 12. So we're going to kind of split what we want to update you on. But first of all, since the 80s, we used to have specific instructional minutes per content area that were recommended for instruction each week. And with this new recommendation, the statute indicates that those are no longer the recommendations, but rather it really becomes about the content and the objectives of a course or an area of content. So you heard our teachers from Country Lab were talking about the standards, and this statute indicates our instruction should be regular instruction that is sufficient to have our students meet the desired objectives for their course. So it will be either by course or by grade, those specific standards. So the taking away or eliminating the prescribed instructional minutes actually provides school districts more flexibility. So as we think of how schools are changing pretty rapidly, online courses and personalized learning being two examples of that, it's very hard to the other pieces that is noted on the very last paragraph of the statute relates to career exploration at the middle school level. And a few weeks ago, I presented along with Ted from Wisconsin's ACT plan. And so this piece directly reinforces the ACT requirements related to career exploration. And so as we're looking at how we might be doing things differently, we just know that we do have to still follow within those frameworks and the guidelines. In this case, it says that a career exploration class or an equivalent to would be required in middle school. And what we do know from ECPs is that we do have to have students exploring multiple careers and pathways to those careers. And so as we look at how we do develop ECPs into our system, we'll be taking a look at the flexibility that this provides us alongside with the actual requirements. And just one example from the elementary perspective regarding the flexibility in how we accomplish our standards rather than by designated minutes per content or topic. With our expansion of personalized learning, we're doing more integrating in the classroom where we might be accomplishing both math standards and science standards along with reading standards simultaneously, and we don't have to be concerned about measuring minutes. So that's kind of an example. It's a good thing.
Any questions? More to come, how that's going to impact our schedules and our coursework and things like that as we move forward. Okay, the next item, C, just a general overview of a program called STEP. And actually, I had the pleasure of having dinner at a regional WASB event with Rick and Dean and Brett and Chris. Were you there?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, all four of us. And we were seated at a table with Brown Deer, and we were just sharing back and forth different ideas. And so Brown Deer was sharing the STEP program and senior tax exchange program, and we all were very interested in learning more about it. So we asked Julie if she would kind of look into what are the sort of general steps and what does it mean, and maybe how our district could maybe look at providing this program for our seniors in our system.
Sure. So the program itself is really a great way for the community, the senior community within Muskegon and the town of Norway to volunteer within our schools, and for our students to be able to interact with different generations within the community. Basically what the program is the seniors technically volunteer. They have to be 55 years or older, have retired from their full-time position. They can still be working part-time somewhere. And I know 55 is young, so those are the legal requirements. And also be a homeowner within the community. And what the program allows for is the seniors come in and they volunteer their time and then are paid a nominal fee, for instance, like $5 an hour, $6.25 an hour. And that payment goes both to them. The check that's written to them is written out once a year, both to them and to the municipality that they pay taxes in. So then they turn that check over to the municipality for the hours earned, and they can deduct it off their property taxes at the end of the year. So it gives them a tax benefit to be able to use for themselves, but also gives us the opportunity to experience their knowledge and talent and kind of bridge that gap between our students and the community. The way that Brown Deer actually presented at the WASB conference, and so the way that they have it set up is the cost of the program. They have a volunteer coordinator who manages all of the volunteers, and they run that through their Fund 80 tax levy. They figure out on average how many seniors that they would have, how much they would pay out, and then they levy that amount every year. So I did include for you just a little bit of information in board docs about it, so that is an opportunity and a way to fund that program. Also keeping in mind that we still have $99,000 in fund balance in Fund 80. That currently we only have open swim within Fund 80 anymore. So we do have funds available. If we wanted to look at the program, we do have funds available to support it. And we'll be bringing back more information on February 15th with more details of what we would recommend if the board were to consider moving forward with it.
we certainly take any questions that you might have now, or, any questions that you might have between now and then, so that we're prepared on February 15th with a recommendation that represents your thoughts.
I got a couple of questions. First one that came to mind is that 55 and older each person in a household.
So the combined benefit can be no more than what one person would earn. So you couldn't have two people earning the same amount. It's for one household, and usually what the maximum is set at is usually just under $600. So it'd be $500 to $550, because anything over $600, the district would have to issue a 1099 tax form. And so it's, we don't want to get to that point, because that defeats the purpose of the tax incentive.
And the second question is, with the fund aid,
Yes.
any amount, let's just say $1,000 just to make it easy. Then we take volunteers up to the point where we hit that $1,000, or what if we went over, and then it would just be coming out of the fund.
We could set parameters based on the budget. If we set a levy amount and we went over, we could use the fund balance that exists in Fund 80 if the board approved that.
I'm thinking if we didn't have fund balance. But if we didn't have fund
If
balance.
you didn't have fund balance, you would want to set the cap to volunteers that would be paid a nominal fee to the levy amount, so you didn't go over. Otherwise, you would have to use fund balance.
So we'll have to do a little fund.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So did Brown Deer have a set list of the type of volunteers that they were looking for?
I think they really opened it up to what it could be. The volunteers were actually at WASB and talking about what they did. Some of them didn't want to be in the classroom or, working with kids. They wanted to work in the office and make copies and things like that. So what they did was they took volunteers and they asked them what their preference would be. And then the volunteer coordinator tried to align their talents and experience that they wanted to have with the actual need that staff had within the buildings. So it wasn't like they were placing people to just have volunteers everywhere. It was, where's the need within our system and how can we align with the people who are interested? So there are actually some volunteers that do after-school programming where they build birdhouses with students. And so some of it's after school, some of it's in the classroom reading. There's a retired nurse in Brown Deer that's participating, and she works in the health room as a volunteer. So they have a variety of experiences. Any other questions?
Yeah, it would be interesting to know for next time what they budgeted for this year, and then also what their school district population is, so we can gauge.
The population,
Of the school district.
the number of students.
No, I'm talking about the physical population of the whole school district.
The district boundaries.
Right. And then also what they're budgeting right now.
They're budgeting about 40,000.
Okay. So if we could find out what the size of that
Yep,
district is.
absolutely.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
We also have this evening a mid-year update on our random drug testing. So we have Mr. Irvine and Ms. Bowden here to provide an update on just where we're at, how things have, where we're at with regard to data and process. Yeah, they have them on board. Okay.
Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to introduce Christine. She has been doing a fantastic job this year, overseeing and facilitating our random drug testing process. So she's going to start us off, and then we'll kind of talk together through our next steps and visions how we move forward with this process.
So as you guys have the slides up, for the 2014-2015 school year, and approximately 125 students tested, and all of those results were negative for the 2014-2015 school year. This school year to date, we've had 135 students tested at this time. We've had 4 positive results, 3 of which were nicotine, and 1 was positive for marijuana. The 3
student tested positive for nicotine, were either in football, I can't remember what it was, football, volleyball,
Basketball and parking.
yep. So they had a co-curricular violation that was mentioned. And then, the one positive for marijuana was a parking permit holder, and their parking permit was then taken for DHE or policy. Change of practice, we did, her discussion with Kelly and the board, change the PED testing to performance testing. Drug testing for athletes. So moving forward, students tested already on the 15th, so the last 5 for this school year will be only for athletes. Do you guys have any questions on any of those results?
I do. When you say athletes, are we also talking about cheerleaders, dance team, weight club?
Correct, all of
Okay.
them are student athletics. Any other questions?
As far as next steps and things we're doing or hoping to do to improve upon the process, one of my passions is believing that drug testing is a very key step in the overall process as a school and community to try to help students stay away from those things. I'm also a very firm believer in the importance of every proactive measure we can take that includes instruction and education around those things. So in looking at our health curriculum to see where do we kind of intertwine the themes around healthy lifestyle choices into that curriculum and how might we beef that up. Additionally, as we've kind of seen now that we've actually had some students identified, what systems we have in place to help support that student and help support that family. Past practice, what we've got some resources outside where we can direct them to needs. But actually, Dr. Denman has done a great job with our student service department, actively seeking out some grant opportunities. And we're trying to work with a company called Most Grants, which is one of the front runners in drug and alcohol treatments, and trying to set up some type of program next year where we can work within our building to also support students who may be struggling with those issues. As much as we'd like to say that the only students who struggle with drugs and alcohol in our building are the ones we find from random drug testing, we know there are more students out there, our counselors become aware of it, our social workers become aware of it, and we want to make sure we've got some support systems in place to help that education process and also support those families. Final question that we're really wrestling with as well. Sometimes the power of the random drug testing is the fear factor for a student. When I think about an athlete, that concept of what is the likelihood that I'll actually be selected to be tested, and is there enough fear in that to help me make the right decision when I'm out on the weekend with a group of my friends at a party and I got that opportunity to make that choice? Are we selecting enough students right now where the word is out there, where there is a legitimate fear factor or concern that being selected is a legitimate possibility? So we're trying to collect some feedback on that as to whether or not we're hitting the target with the number of students we're testing each semester.
What are your thoughts on that?
As you heard, we've already tested more students to date than we did all of last year. It is interesting, we've also broadened the selection pool. And that's a hard piece of feedback to gather. When you ask, depends on which students you talk to. Some you can test 5 students all year, and just because we have that process, it's enough of an additional motivator to stay away from it. I'm struggling to find the right answer. As far as what other districts are doing, we are very much on pace with what other districts are doing. Some other districts have opted to start this process earlier, maybe at a time the students are most likely to start that experimental phase and try to keep them away from it as a 7th or 8th grader. Some things like that, but those are all things we're looking into.
What are other districts experiencing as far as positive testing results compared to us?
It's a good question. I only know one firsthand, and I would argue they're pretty similar. It's interesting. It was National Drug Fact Week for Washoe County last week, and so they published some information out there on that. And what they share is the prevalence of students experimenting with drugs and alcohol. Our numbers are far below what they are claiming is happening typically in Washoe County, based on what we're identifying via random drug testing.
I just have a question about the selection. I think I know how this is set up, but if you have an athlete who's taking one sport, and you have another student who's taking a sport and band and another extracurricular activity, they both have an even chance of being selected. It's not, no one's taking all this in 3 times.
So basically, it's just, if you are in any one of the above or multiple, your name gets put in the pool for your name at one time.
And it doesn't get taken out. So even if you've been selected in November, your name can still be selected again.
And my daughter once, one of the bandmates or something got selected twice in a row.
Chris?
I've got a couple of, not really questions, just thoughts too. So thank you for this slide. I was looking forward to seeing just where we are with the testing itself. At some point, and we didn't ask for this here tonight, but at some point, and maybe we'll get to that, it would be nice to see what was identified through RDT, the random drug testing, and what's been identified through just the alertness, awareness of our staff at the high school. I'm curious overall where we sit on the issue of drugs or substance abuse. And RDT, the random drug test, is one aspect where we're trying to identify. We also have, our teachers and staff at the high school who are looking at this. And, I think there have probably been some identified that way as well. That's just a thought I have. The other thing is, it'd be curious to know, what if we increased it? Like what percent is too, I don't know if there's a percent that's too high or what, and then what the expectation would be by raising it that high, right? What would we expect to get? And I guess the last comment is the location. We're testing at the school but we have the dogs too come in. And, I'm just thinking, there's the buses. Is that, I don't know if their district's in a state that will do anything with the buses going to or from school.
According to Dean, no one takes the bus to the high school.
Oh, well.
The high school. Yeah, that's right.
And it's interesting because, you hear things, right? And so it would just be an interesting research, I guess, if, the districts that you mentioned, right, do they do anything with the buses, or are they, or is it even possible? I wouldn't even know how you would do it.
You mean if they're taking the bus that they would be?
No, just
checking
the bus.
Yeah, more or less checking.
Random search.
Yeah, because, it gets to be the point, I think, where if you're not going to test everyone all the time, then you really have to look at other means to try to identify. So I have just some thoughts there. I don't know what you can do or bring back with that, but
Well, on that note,
my thoughts.
the school resource officers will be here on March 21st, and they actually have, per the new agreement that we had worked out with the Muskegon Police Department, we have some summary data they'll be able to provide related to the first piece that you mentioned, related to more specifics about other drugs or other alcohol issues that were found at not only the high school, but across our system.
Sure.
So.
Because I just thought, well, can you delay a bus from leaving, send out a note and say, okay, we're putting the dogs on it, and then leave? That's just an example. I don't know. But because it's nice to have an update on what we currently are doing, but I'm just thinking, what other items can we show that, grow with that, I guess. So
Thank you.
So thank you.
Have we had any, when you look at where we were last year, this year for random drug testing, but has there been any historical numbers of our organic fines, I guess would be a way of saying it? Typically you have so many violations a year for co-extracurriculars. Has that number changed at all since we've been doing random drug testing?
I don't have, I don't know off the top of my head. That's a good question. I can follow up with Mr. Kluge on that. Okay.
And one last question, I think. The more positive results we get, I remember board policy, right, is we allow the student to take another test at their own expense. Has anybody done that today for those 4 violations? Okay.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Moving on to other reports. President's report, really have none. Moving on to board member reports.
I've got one. I know this past weekend, the Milwaukee Music Festival was happening at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, and it's basically a festival where like your finest musicians throughout the high schools in the surrounding area gather and perform. And so congratulations to those representing Muskego High School who did attend and were selected. I know we have one student council member back here, Jack Maher, who attended. Thank you very much, Jack. And, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Any other board member reports?
Just briefly, last week was the State Education Convention. I was there every day. Rick was down there at least one day that night. So was Chris, and I believe Chris will be sending out results of the Delegate Convention. Yes,
Absolutely.
Put you on the spot.
Any other board member reports? All right. Moving on. Student representation. Lauren.
Hello, Lauren.
How finals going? We didn't keep you too late and then screw up all your finals. All right, that's good.
So, week of the 25th, and like one thing, the girls and boys varsity basketball teams both defeated Waukesha North. The boys won 65-63, and the girls team won 68-18. I don't know if that's right, I might have mistyped that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Week of January 1st, that Thursday, the varsity wrestling team closed out its dual meet season by defeating Arrowhead 40-26. Picking up key victories were Tom Winsizer, Alex Reddick, Evan Cinda, and Jordan McGuire, who all won by pin. Tyler Huxtor, Grant Falcone, and Gavin Finale all picked up wins as well. The victory puts the Eagles conference dual record at 6-1, heading into Friday night's Class 8 conference tournament. Saturday, the MHS forensics team had a winning start to the season. They competed at Marquette University High School. Mary Jo Canellis earned first place trophy in demonstration speaking, and Zach Pledge earned fourth place medal in prose speaking. Overall, the team placed fifth in their division. And then the cheer team had a competition at Brookfield Central on Saturday. The cheer dancer team took first, and the traditional routine took fourth. The format of person had a very Carly Summer, Katie Slavin, and Kathleen Maverick placed second, and the Sparkle team also had another opportunity to perform. And then on that Friday, the boys varsity basketball team defeated Waukesha West 81-41. And then coming up this week, Tuesday, the girls varsity basketball team competes at Waguanago at 7:30. Friday, the boys varsity basketball team competes against Catholic Memorial at 7:30. And then there's an ACT tutorial class that's being offered on Saturday, February 13th, or the week after that on the 20th. In the MHS library, students are provided with an overview of the 4 tests of the ACT as well as test-taking strategies. And then tickets for this year's musical, Mary Poppins, can be purchased in the activities office. And then the Sadie Hawkins Winter Dance is at the Princeton Club on Saturday, February 20th.
Any questions for Lauren?
Have they had the dance at the Princeton Club before?
They have not had it in the past. In the past, it's just been at school like the other dances, but they're trying to spark interest. Because the last few years, there's been less and less kids going. There's more fun, different things to try to
So it sparks interest.
We haven't sold tickets yet, but I can definitely, get back to you guys on that one.
Are you going?
I'm going to go, yeah.
So what?
Which day?
The 20th, February 20th.
So what's going to be different? I mean, it's probably going to be in the gym there, right?
I discussed it.
And then anything different happening because it's at the club?
I think it's just to get out of.
To get out of the high school area?
Yeah, thinking that kids would want to see what it's all about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to public forum. This is your opportunity to address the school district or school board and any district operations. Anyone? Going once? Tracy, looking like you got something. All right, moving on to item 5, resolution action items. 5A, Washoe County Special Education Consortium.
Motion to approve the renewal of the Muskegon Norway School District participation in the Waukesha County Special Education Consortium for the 2016-2017 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
This is an annual collaborative that we participate in, and so it is the same as we would have had in the years past. Just the services change based on the needs of the students we're serving.
Any other questions or anything? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 5B, Makerspace Grant Resolution.
Motion to approve the grant resolution as presented.
Second.
Discussion.
We actually have Karen Lindholm-Reichwitz and Dr. Clapper here just to give us a little summary of what the grant is to accomplish for the high school and answer any questions that the board might have.
Good evening. Good evening.
So this is Dr. Clapper. I'm Karen Lindholm-Reichwitz. We teach in the technology engineering design department. We also teach food science, so we're practically the way teachers for the high school. So we thought probably things you need some background. So a fabrication lab, which is what this is all about, is a place where you're going to have technology meeting creativity, and it's typically smaller types of technology, so things like 3D printers and mills and possibly laser printers. A makerspace, just so you know what you're signing, a makerspace is usually a place where all those things are located and people come so they can share ideas and share the use of the equipment, and so it's a very sort of collegial sort of idea. Our idea was to, and so backing up a little bit more, so the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation put out a grant opportunity for schools to develop makerspaces on their locations. And the grant was a 75-25, so they would cover 75% of the cost of the grant, up to $25,000, and then the school district would have to pick up the $6,225. That would be the other 25%. And so our idea for a makerspace was to make one that would actually roll, that it wouldn't just be in one fixed spot, to make it so that different teachers in different content areas could use the different machines in ways that would make it so that their content area could be expressed creatively with the help of the text machines. Yeah, we actually have one that we're trying out now, so we're making prototypes to make sure how things would work, so giving it a test in an actual classroom. So yeah, we wanted to ask you ever so lightly if you could sign the document, so that meet up all of our other documents that are already located at the state. All right.
Sure. Anything else you want to add, Jeff? Are you good?
No, I just, it fulfills a need for the school. If you look around in other schools, comparable schools, they have maybe a bigger engineering program. And I think we've tried to work hard to build the program that we have. Just a third of us here got a third of an engineering teacher. So one of the ways that we like to do it is
Be really tall.
we like to get more exposure and more PR, in addition to all of the engagement and the academic achievement that comes with the ability to express yourself creatively. So some of it is selfish, I guess. But I think we need to have that strong engineering program at the school, and this is one way to start that process rolling.
The Economic Development Corporation has been trying to have wants to make it so that students in Broadway learn about manufacturing and how to, what manufacturing is really like, and how understanding that, yes, in manufacturing is work, but it also can be interesting as a way to kind of expose people to things, not just about things that are in high school, but things that are past high school for career possibilities.
Any questions?
Okay, so just to cover, this will cover the purchase of the 3D laser printer, or the 3D printer, excuse me. And then the laser cutter.
Yeah, so it'd be two 3D printers. It would be one laser cutter. It would be a CNC mill. It would be the rolling carts that they're on. I don't know if you guys-
And tools.
hand tools that go with it. And I think I'm missing another, I guess.
Well, part of the process would be trying to clean up after the,
Oh,
so,
the vacuum.
yeah.
Yeah, the vacuum that goes with the CNC, so that it gets clean. So it's a wide variety of tools, and what the grant is really for is to kind of do the initial heavy lifting, because the CNC mill is $7,000, I think, and that doesn't include the shipping. The laser cutter is a little over $8,000. Each one of the 3D printers is something between 3 and 7, depending on the type that we get. So they're just big ticket items. And so it seemed a really great idea to actually get a grant that would actually help us to make it to the place that we actually have something that we can call a makerspace. Because right now we've got a 3D printer that's working really hard because it's the only one that we have. Our long-term goal is to not just have it available to the school, but also have a summer workshop as a summer class at the high school. But then we've started talking with the Parks and Rec department about bringing in or making it available to other members of the community. And then, how can we, speaking about the seniors and the kids and that exchange of information. So how can you do that where you're exchanging information in a legal way with younger people?
So I'll leave out my soapbox here. I'm on the board of directors of the WFP, and one of my other directors is from Three Lakes. I don't know if you're familiar with their program, but they've had it for about a year now, and they've just gotten some phenomenal responses. I get updates from them with articles in various Wisconsin publications about what it's really teaching the kids and how well they're doing. In one of our meetings, he actually brought some samples for sale, like the Motion W and Bucking Badgers and other things that they had cut out with the laser printer, and then they had to send it out there to have it painted because they didn't have the ability there.
And the appropriate licensing fees, I hope.
I'm going to assume so. I'm not going to go there. But yeah, it just seemed a great experience for the kids. I think this is just would be a great addition to the high school for what the kids can learn there, especially with the CNC, because there is going to be more and more demand for people who can operate. And if our students are in the high school and have a good, solid foundation, it's only going to help them going forward.
So included with our materials was not only the resolution, but a document, the Rolling Makerspace project. Is that the grant that does the grant? And did you both have a hand in doing this?
Yeah, they did.
It's phenomenal.
They worked hard.
You worked very hard on this. It's very evident. It's so, right, so grant writing is not fun, but you both did a wonderful job with this. It's really thorough, very well done.
We tried to cover all this.
It appears you did, and successfully so, right? So it was great, it's a great document.
Thank you very much for all your efforts.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So this, you mentioned that it would be available to different classes or different areas of the curriculum so it isn't just one class that's devoted to this, is that correct?
Right, that's, Karen's actually piloting the history class. So trying to bring it out to the, areas where you wouldn't traditionally find these techniques or these tools, really to spark creativity, change the culture, hopefully get some girls to come in and take engineering. All of those things that we want to try to accomplish that are hard to do if you just hope that they sign up for your class. Yeah, to get those skills.
And we have space for it.
Yeah,
The fact that it can roll makes a big difference. And right now, the library's been getting those carts, so the back of my classroom is sort of like a cart bonanza. I think we have room for it. The fact that things will be moving around, we've already got a plan for how to figure out where things are going and when they're going, and then evaluate after people have used it, both from the students and the teacher's point of view, how the process went, so that we can try to improve on that. Yeah. We tried to make it, when choosing the tools, we tried to make it so that they were not going to be like the big, huge, massive tools. So everything can fit on a desktop. That's almost like one of the things that was one of the things that made it so we can get this because it's desktop size. So I think the largest object that we're getting would be, or we would get, if we could get the grant, I just thought I would, is the CNC mill, and I believe that's like 40 inches by 20 inches. We've got a cart already that holds that. And part of the thing also will be figuring out, so how much noise does everything make? I know when I do my 3D printing, I often will set up a print in the afternoon when I get done teaching, and then it'll run all night. And so that way it'll be done in the morning. And so sometimes you can do that with things. So
Well, now you can make your own card too.
And now I could probably make my own card, yes.
What's the life expectancy on, average life expectancy on each of these items?
You know, that I'm not sure on. I know the CNC mill is supposed to, like, it's a very high quality machine, so it should last us a really long time, like 15, 20 years. The 3D printers are relatively new items. I think they've only been, MakerBot has really only had them out for maybe the last 5 years. And it depends on how much you use it. So, like, the little that I have now is pretty much running, well, let's see, for a couple of months there, it was running every day, all the time. Yeah, now it's not quite as much. Now it's only half the time. But and we've had this one for 2 years now. One of the nice things about the MakerBots is that you can get a maintenance program that goes along with it that allows you to do the maintenance and get the parts. And it's already built in. It's already built into their program. They have updated software probably about every month, every 2 weeks that you can download. So it's like, it's something that's made to be updated.
They've been out long enough to answer your question.
Yeah, the only reason I ask that is it's kind of like smart boards. We get a lot of donations of smart boards initially, and then how do we replace them? Because once they're in your classroom, they are going to be,
How do we put, who pays to put bulbs in and who pays to?
they are
You just
going to
have
be
to
part.
prioritize, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, being the department chair for Tech Ed, prioritizing maintenance is something that I seem to do a lot of. So knowing that, you know, how long things will last and what the replaceable parts are, and budgeting ahead of that, we've already started thinking about how to come up with funds to have the money to actually do the updating and replace the parts when they need replacing. Look for a T-shirt coming next to a community event near you.
I'm just thinking about, especially the 3D printers, you may want to start thinking about how you're going to replace those when they're no longer functional. Because once you have them,
You find you really need them.
you do,
That's all.
you will, and you won't want to not have them based on what curriculum you develop to go with them.
Right. So, yeah, in essence, I don't know how long everything's gonna last, and actually the laser cutter that we're looking into is I think the company is just a startup now, is Glowforge. The reason it was chosen was because of it's smaller, it has less mechanical parts, it works a lot with the cloud, so students could design things on their Chrome books and then download that to the Glowforge. Yeah, it already has an air filter built into it that doesn't have to be like vented out with a wall. So it's got a lot of support for it, and it's like brand new off the shelf. They're
Have you,
Also have the option to, reapply
Go ahead.
for the same grant.
so,
So we could, at a smaller, the amount that they will kick in is smaller as time goes on, but they do allow a multiple year, application.
It's, this year it's 75-25, and then the next time you would do it would be 50-50, and the time after that, 25-75. So we're probably not going to see it. But we'll just have to see what happens after that. We've got a pretty long timeline that seems reasonable in that, we get the things, we work them for a year and see how that was going. And then if it seemed like we needed more big ticket items, then try to write another grant for the next set of items. But it could very well be that the number of items we have will be enough, we don't know.
have you budgeted at all for the raw material that goes into the machine?
Yes, we have, but it can't be part of this grant. We've also started talking to local companies who have said, oh, yes, you can have this. So instead of having larger pieces of equipment that often companies are willing to give schools, which we can't find any place for, they're like, oh, you mean USB plastic? It's like, yeah, we need plastic. Oh, we've got tons of plastic. So, so we've got sources. We've got sources for foam or so far and for plastic. I have a feeling that we'll probably be able to find sources for some wood objects and some metal as well if we can get metal for. So we'll just have to see how that goes. If we do the course in the summer, we were thinking that there would need to be like just a general fee if we have like assigned things. But yeah, we'll get there.
The only thing that I want to say is thank you. We have a major skills gap in manufacturing right now. And the state of Wisconsin is a heavy manufacturing state. And thank you for thinking outside the box. And I provided a passes. I wish you every success to get the other teachers involved to utilize it because it's very important. I would also encourage you to reach out to the local manufacturers to see if they can provide some of that raw material. Because I think if they know you have this capability and are looking long-term to be able to help them fill positions they have, I think they'd be more than happy to help you.
Yeah, I echo what he said. Thank you very much. And I know how hard you've been working on this. Contacted me a number of weeks ago, and it was tight then, and must be even tighter now. I'm guessing you need to get this to the post office tonight before midnight or something.
No, I think we're allowed. We had submitted the grant, and we read 2 days before we had to submit the grant that we needed a letter from a resolution from the board, and we said to ourselves. So we thought, well, we'll just have Rick write a letter and sign that, and that'll be okay. What Rick's letter granted us was an email back to them saying, hey, we're going to give you 3 more weeks to get this resolution going, but we need the resolution, so hi.
How big is that laser cutter that you get?
I think it is 40 by 24.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You have your resolution.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5C, donations.
Motion to accept the thanks for following donations. At Lakeview Middle School, from PPG Industries Foundation, $1,000 for textbooks. And at Muskego Elementary, from Muskego Elementary PTO, $4,200 for items to enhance literacy instruction, $251.30 for bus transportation costs to the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra, and $196 for bus transportation to Harlan South Elementary School.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to item 6, discussion item. 6A, OPEB.
We actually have a guest. Linda Mott is here from Key Benefits. You might recognize her. She's been here a number of years ago and here to provide an update on our OPEB. Thank you for being here.
You have received the 50-page copy,
Mhm.
which
51.
we then
51.
take the outline of the 3-page condensed version. And I'm just going to hit the highlights of the 3-page. If there are any other questions that you want to go into detail, I'd be more than happy to talk with you individually, but do not want to take that much time for the board meeting. The actuarial valuation is done as a tool for the auditor to complete the financial statements. As part of the financial statements, we need to indicate what the obligations are relative to the post-employment. The valuation is done every 2 years. The study was done as of July 1, 2014. So it's looking at a census who's an active, who's retiring as of that date, and how much of the benefits they're going to get in retirement have they earned to date and through the end of that fiscal year through 6/30/15. And so it's not something we're extrapolating out into the future, but just looking at the portion of the obligation that has been earned thus far. When we do that, we use a lot of actuarial assumptions. We don't assume everyone's going to retire from the school district. We use the WRS rate of retirement, rate of turnover, rate of mortality, those types of things to get as accurate of an estimate as we possibly can. And so just looking at that outline, if you look at the definitions, the accrued liability, or the actuarial accrued liability, that's the value of the benefits that have been earned up to that valuation date, July 1, 2014. Your retirees at that point have earned the entire benefit. Your actives have earned a piece of it based on their age and years of service as of that date. And that's the portion we're looking at. The normal cost then is the present value of the benefits that are earned in the fiscal year, July 1, 2014 through 6/30/15. So how much more did the actives earn for working for the school district for 1 more year? And that's our normal cost. Now, the unfunded accrued liability is we look at the assets that are held by the district in an irrevocable trust, so they can only be used for the post-employment benefit. You have 2 types of post-employment benefits. Something we refer to as OPEB, or the other post-employment benefits. That's continued medical and dental and those types of things. And for that OPEB benefit, the district does have a trust and has about $530,000 as of 7/1/14. And so those dollars are subtracted then from that first bullet, the accrued liability, and the remainder is your unfunded accrued liability. Okay? So that's what we're looking at with that portion. You also have another post-employment benefit that is a 403B or a TSA contribution in retirement. And that is viewed by GASB not as an OPEB, but as a pension benefit. And I remember when we first started doing this, and I said to the folks at the Government Accounting Standards Board, there isn't a school district in the state that sees these as a pension. They have the WRS pension. We refer to them now as supplemental pensions, but their response was, well, they will not, because that is how they've set it up. So we have to value them separately. We value them in very much the same manner, but they're recorded separately in different places on the financial statements. So what we're getting to is that last bullet, the annual required contribution, or what we call the ARC. And how that's derived is we take that unfunded accrued liability and we amortize it. In this case, we amortize the OPEB benefit over a 14-year period and the pension benefit over a 30-year. We take 1 year's amortization and we add that to the normal cost. So you have this accrued liability. You're not going to show the entire amount as an expense in 1 given year. So what we're getting to with the ARC is the portion of that expense that we're going to show for a given year. And that's how it's derived to get that ARC. On the bottom of page 1 and on the top of page 2 is a brief description of those continued medical benefits, and then separately that stipend benefit, or what we're referring to as a pension. And they are valued separately. So if you look at the bottom of page 2, our other post-employment, our continued medical benefits that are funded in retirement, are paid out in retirement, are the normal cost that was earned in the 14-15 fiscal year, including interest to the end of the year, is that $399,000. Number 2, the unfunded accrued liability, everything earned up to July 1, 2014 by the actives and the retirees, minus the assets in your trust, okay, is that $13,337,000. We took that and we amortized it over 14 years. So the next line we have, if you use the level dollar amortization, $1,347,000 is 1 year's amortization. Or if you use the level percent, it's $1,130,000. Either amortization method is acceptable under GASB guidelines, so we show both of them.
and it's really between the school district and the auditor which approach they want to use. Now, when it comes to the amortization, I asked the GASB folks a number of years ago, if a district chooses one amortization method, are they locked into it? And the answer is no. Each time it's shown on your financial statements, you can determine which amortization approach you're going to use, as long as within the text of the report it explains which one to use. Obviously, you're not going to flip back and forth, but it is something where I have seen some districts who have started with one and changed to another. And again, that's the reason I do it. So the ARC on the bottom of page 2 is taking the normal cost from number 1 and adding it to number 3, 1 year's amortization. And that shows the ARC, or the expense that would be shown on the financials for that one given year. Now that ARC is good for 2 years, the fiscal year ending 6/30/15 and the fiscal year ending 6/30/16. And then a new study is done every 2 years. Okay? Now there have been some changes that are in the process of being made when it comes to new GASB statements. One of the changes that they made is up till now there have been 6 different actuarial methods that we could use. And we had been using the unit credit method, which is a very common method for looking at these post-employment benefits. Not going to go into explaining what the actuarial method is all about. But what happened is with some of these new statements that are coming out, in the next few years we're going to be changing our tables, and a requirement is that we change over to the entry age normal. There will be one chosen method. We started using that method right away, so that if you have to comply with the new statements in a year we're not normally doing a post-employment study, we don't have to run a new one. So we're trying to be progressive so that we are working right along with the school district in that manner. Okay? One other comment I want to make on page 2 is I passed over what we refer to as actively funded 403B contributions. A number of years ago, you changed to some tiering methods where you had different tiers of folks depending on when they were hired and when they would retire, what benefit they would receive. And the last tier is an actively funded benefit. And what that means is it's a benefit people are going to receive in retirement into a 403B, post-employment benefit. However, that amount is being funded each year as the person is earning the benefit. And so it's considered an actively funded benefit, and it's accounted for in the year that it's earned and actually funded. Excuse me. As a result of that, we don't have to include it in our post-employment liability. So already the district has taken some steps to work towards not having an unfunded liability by, rather than trying to fund this outstanding one that's there, be progressive in looking at moving forward as new people come on board. We're trying to fund it as it's earned so we can maintain a post-employment benefit. Okay. On page 3 then, this is that pension benefit, that 403B contribution that isn't funded until retirement, some of those other tiers. And just like the OPEB, it's very much the same type of a process, but done separately. The normal cost, what was earned in the 14-15 school year, including interest for those that were active, is the $107,708. The unfunded accrued liability, everything earned up to July 1, 2014 by the actives and retirees, is that $1,202,000. There are no assets, so that is the entire obligation of what was earned up to that point. We amortize that over 30 years. So you'll see under number 3, using a level dollar amortization, $69,566, or using a level percent, $47,806. Adding 1 plus 3 equals 4. The end required contribution would either be the $177,274 or the $155,514. Okay. Now when we do this summary, it's not in the 50-page report. But what we add there is a box to give you an idea of what's changed since the last time we did evaluation. Where are we going with this? So if you look at number 1, the unfunded accrued liability in the OPEB world, you had a $13,436,000 as the unfunded accrued liability as of 7/1/12, and now that's decreased slightly to $13,377,000. We have 2 things happening with that OPEB benefit. As people continue to work for you, they're earning another couple of years. Every time we do this, they've earned 2 more years if they stayed longer. But at the same time, we have people who have left the school district and are no longer earning it. They've walked away, and we aren't replacing with them with someone who is getting that benefit because that's a closed group. Okay? So we're going to have these ebb and tide where we're gaining a little, we're losing a little. But based upon the cash flow that we show in the big report, we expect somewhere around 2035 that payout of that post-employment medical benefit will be done. People who have earned those benefits will have retired and received them, or they have moved on to another district and there's no longer a payout of that. So you are working in a direction to pay off or pay out that benefit and end that unfunded obligation. Okay. The second part of that then is where it shows the pay-as-you-go. It was at 17 million, and now it's dropped down to 16,378,000. And again, that's as people leave, and then as they're earning a little bit more. But you'll see that we're working to an end there. But what we've done is we've replaced then a portion of those people that were getting that OPEB benefit with this pension benefit instead, those other tiers. And so the unfunded accrued liability, what's been earned up to July 1, 2012 versus 2014, towards that pension benefit, it was $1,125,000, and that's increased to $1,202,000. Again, we're going to see that increase over some time, and that's going to be a longer period of time because those were younger people. The longer they stay, the more they're going to earn, and that cash payout is going to be over more than a 30-year period. So as your post-employment benefits are today, it's still a long time with the type of benefits that you have before you see the entire unfunded benefits go away, and you will have then just your funded benefits unless some additional changes are made. But that gives you an idea where you're at. The last, the number 4, is the cash flow on that pension benefit that isn't funded. And the last study, we had $6,333,000 in a 30-year payout. This time, we're looking at $6,337,000. That's a lot to grasp in one review. There's a lot of information here. And I've heard it said you have to hear this about 4 or 5 times before the light bulb goes on. So I can take any questions you have, but obviously if there are any questions beyond this, please feel free to call us. We talk to board members all the time.
I've just got one. I look at data all the time, and on bottom of page 2, 1 and 3 are supposed to match, but they don't. I didn't see any rounding or anything, but I think 1 and 3 don't. It's supposed to be a 6. Or is it?
Oh, the 995.
Yeah, or is that a rounded? I didn't see a note that they round up, but is that?
Right. When the actuaries do this, you should see how many decimal points they have. Yeah.
Okay. I usually see it noted. I just didn't see it.
Right. I should actually add a note to indicate that it's
That's fine.
rounding.
Yeah,
I
outside of
agree
that,
with you.
that's fine. Okay.
But yes, that does happen a lot. Thank you. Other comments, questions?
You can add that note for Chris, but we really don't need it over here.
Okay. Well, like I said, it's a lot to take in. If you're looking at the report or have any other questions, please feel free to give us a call. We do this all the time, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on with discussion item 6B, 2015-16 budget.
No, just a standing item. I can answer any questions about the budget if anybody had anything. Otherwise, there'll be more information with budget when we go over damage.
Any specific questions right now? Hearing none, moving on to 6C, student fees.
So Julie has some information here to share with the board, a recommendation and some information related to random drug testing fees.
So in the information provided, we always include the school fee survey so we can compare the fees that we charge across southeastern Wisconsin. So that information is provided for you. Normally, we don't bring forward recommendations for school fees. We understand where the board stance is with fees. However, there was the discussion about increasing the parking fee by another $10 to account for the drug testing fees. And so that is in there. Excuse me, we currently charge $125 a year for parking. We're asking the increase to $135 if the board wanted to implement that $10 increase for random drug testing. If you scroll down under the administrative portion of board docs, I do have information there that shows the fees received and the expenses paid for the random drug testing broken out by year. In 2015-16, we have fees through January 31st of this year and expenses paid through December 31st of this past year. So that gives you an idea of how much we're taking in and how much we're paying out for that program. The other fees, food food service fees would be the only other fee that we would bring forward, and that's coming to you next board meeting with a presentation from Packer, just to talk about the overall program, the status of where we're at with the other schools, and then a fee recommendation at that time.
Fee recommendation to increase or decrease?
The food service fees, there will be a recommendation to increase based on the meal equity requirements of the federal government and the requirement to increase to get up to their equity price that they set every year.
Can you remind me, Julie, so that drug testing this year, when the form got filled out, there was a fee associated with it, if the student was going to participate in a co-curricular or
Correct.
right?
Correct.
So so are we talking that a student would pay it twice? So if you a student paid parking, and then they were in a co-curricular and they paid for it there.
No, I believe it would only be paid once, but it's just to capture more students who would be participating. So if they park, if they have a parking permit and they're participating, it would only be once. Okay.
So we didn't increase the fees when we added parking, is that right?
No, it's supposed to.
Okay, so we're closing the loop on that, okay.
But again, they wouldn't pay twice.
They wouldn't pay twice.
So which one would get paid automatically? The parking one would automatically go up $10, then if they go to the athletic fee thing, they can show I have a parking pass and I don't pay the
It's
I guess
actually,
I would have to look at logistics from the high school's perspective.
I think it just shows up on your fees.
No, he's just saying in the future.
one of them's getting waived.
Yeah, but it says on here, I mean, you've got it online, I can go on there, Toby said the 3 or 4 things, he doesn't pay it each time he's in this, it's logged in there.
But we're not
But
breaking
I don't want to
it,
capture,
so.
in my personal thing, I don't want them paying twice.
Yeah, I'm assuming what'll happen is if they go through the registration process, they get a parking permit, that information, those students who paid that fee would be passed out to the athletic department, and they would have to just make sure that they're not charging people twice for that.
so an easier way to do this could be that we are just implementing the $10 drug fee for students who have parking and not increasing the parking fee. I mean, that could be the way to deal with this, that it's clean. Otherwise, you know what I'm saying? Keep the parking fee at $125. We are just now, if you are applying for the parking fee, you will be required to pay the $10 drug fee.
And
then it covers everything, and it's not the, if you have the parking permit, so that's probably a cleaner way to do it.
Because, I mean, you could just validate that as part of any of the co-curriculars or parking, just go online and look. If you pay the $10 fee at any point, then great, you've got,
We're just trying to talk away from justifying it though. The way she's talking about justifies it easier.
I don't think she's looking to justify it. I think she's
Yeah.
looking to
Administratively.
administrative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that sounds a lot easier, just go to 125 and then we'll look and see if they paid the $10 at some point, fine, if not, $10. Yeah.
Just a general question, Julie, about fees. Is there any, in your profession, is there any like generalities as far as the size of the district and the amount of overall fees? Because when I look at this chart here and I look at the high school, I see some of the smaller districts have lower fees and some of the larger districts have bigger fees.
It's really based on the community and what the community wants to charge. I think each school district is different. I don't know that any school districts really talk about school fees. I think you try to keep it to what makes sense for your district. I think some of the schools that, I'm not going to name any specific ones, but maybe more affluent districts charge more because for certain things like parking and things just because they can. Some districts don't think there's a need to charge for parking as much. I mean, we don't charge a ton for parking here, but we have a ton of spaces. School districts that have limited space may charge more. I think it just really all depends. I don't know that it's. But the idea is obviously that we're charging a reasonable amount of fees for what's necessary and not overcharging really to make profit.
Are the parking fees still, I shouldn't say still, are they being segregated for parking lot repair?
We keep the parking lot fees tracked separately through the
I'm sorry?
We keep it separate, it's a separate account code in our revenue budget for parking alone. That helps to offset those fees, yes.
So talking about revenue versus expenses, do we want to talk about the fees that we're collecting for the drug testing versus what we're spending on it? One suggestion right now is we're doing a fairly minimal amount of PED testing. The funds that we have collected in, we could increase that, maybe one way, or decrease the fee. I haven't gotten a lot of kickback on the $10 fee itself, so I would suggest keeping it there, but maybe increase the, right now for the PED testing, we're doing what, two out of every testing, so we could increase that to more.
So what would increase it? So what percent are we doing now?
2 out of 10.
We do 2 out of 15.
Why did the overall random? Well, what percentage? 15. To 15. So what would 15%? 15 kids.
We do 15 kids. It's not a percentage.
What percent does that reflect of the?
Yeah.
1%, 2%.
About 1,200 kids involved.
So what would just increasing the amount of kids overall? I mean, where do you get your? If we are going to increase, where would you get your best bang?
I'm talking about the PED though. Right now, because for the performance enhancing, we're hardly doing any. We're only doing 2 out of those.
Yeah, I know, but it's the same fee for either, right? So I'm just saying, I don't have an issue with doing that, Rick. I'm just saying.
No, it's not the same fee. It's quite a bit more. That's why we do it.
No, I mean, it's the same. It's included in the $10 fee, right?
Yes.
So I'm just saying, I'm not against that, but where would you get the best bang for your buck? Increasing the number of PEDs or increasing the number of overall drug testing?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a statistician on where.
Maybe the high school could weigh in. I don't know, Mr. Irvine, if you want to come up, just as far as looking at spending, once a month with, 10 versus 15. Now, if we consider 20, like, what does that look like?
Sure. It's a good question. The PED question is fascinating. I think we're one of the few districts, I'm not aware of any other districts that have PEDs. And the reality of what percentage is tested for PEDs. So on any given time where we randomly select 15, we've had times when we had 7 of those students selected for parking permit holders. So taking 2 out of the remaining 8, so that estimates your likelihood of being tested for PED.
Yeah, but that's what's going to happen. That wasn't current practice.
Correct.
We were doing PED testing on parking pass holders.
Correct, because our policy is taking stuff. So that's our adjustment currently. I guess I would ask the question, would we have a greater concern for our community students using PEDs or other drugs and kind of utilizing that insight to try to invest that money?
Oh, and I would think we're concerned about any kind of drugs, period. But I guess my question would be from a statistical standpoint. I don't know the answer. At what point is diminishing returns on increasing the overall? Where if we're doing such a small percentage of the PEDs, we kind of, I don't know if you. I mean, I guess I would ask, maybe do some research and make a suggestion back. But
Maybe at the end of the year, we can look at that, provide additional information, look at the,
I agree. It does seem, Rick, that it does seem silly to take in more in fees than what you're spending.
I mean, I don't think the dollar amount's objectionable, so let's use it. For what we've seen.
Or reduce it.
Right, that's right. Either reduce
Yeah,
it, but it's
one or
right,
another.
one or the other. I just don't want to continue with the status quo on it.
I think we're good at the $10. I don't think we really need to reduce that at this point. If we want to build the program, Let's at least get his input later this year before we make that decision to reduce it. For parents where their child has been tested, even though I didn't really have any concern, but you know what? It's a great $10 spend, to be honest with you. So.
we'll address this at the end of the year.
Right. Anything else on fees that we discussed? All right. Moving on, number 7, information follow-up. Anything? Hearing none. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned at 8:50.